You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And I think it's safe to say that Sydney Sweeney is currently one of the biggest actresses around for different reasons, obviously. Miss Sweeney has recently starred in a horror film called Immaculate, directed by Michael Mohan. So we decided to try and benefit off of her popularity and discuss the film this week. So let's see how it works. If you're not familiar with the film, we will say there will be spoilers. It's not quite, I think it just started streaming this week. So, be warned. Synopsis is an American nun embarks on a journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and an unspeakable horror.
Unspeakable horrors. That's what that's all we do now in horror movies, is it has to be something unspeakable. I think, was I the one that mentioned possibly doing this episode?
You were.
I watched the preview. It looked interesting. Spoiler alert, it's not as interesting as the preview plays off, but it's not terrible. So I went into this movie. The first thing I did was I looked at the time. So it's, I think, an hour 28. So it's not terribly long. And the reason I did that is because sometimes movies like this, where they're trying to tell side messages or ulterior motives in their messaging, they want to tell, like, they want to have the big picture item and then subtlety in what they're really trying to do, and those movies tend to drag out to that 2-hour time frame, and then they never work in movies like this, where it's a very I don't want to say overplayed, but kind of overplayed premise. The person
very overplayed, and if this was any longer, it would have cost them some stars on my ranking for sure.
But then it would have been an A24 movie.
It was interesting that it doesn't play long. I'll start by saying that. It doesn't feel long. And I think that that's the best thing for this movie, because if it did feel long, it wouldn't have been enjoyable. There's things that happen in the movie where I feel like at this point in the horror genre, whenever you do something along the lines and Barbarian, When Evil Lurks, which When Evil Lurks does it a little more subtly and it's a little more meaningful. But I think even with Terrifier 2 and its popularity because of the bedroom scene, I think there's a push now to create grotesqueness in a movie, even when it's not necessarily needed. The nun that jumped off or was pushed off, whatever happened to her, they rolled her over and it looked like her entire face had been peeled off and it was just the eyes. It kind of reminded me of like some kind of visual from an 80s slasher film or something. I didn't get why they would even worry about that. They did have the scene where she beats the nun in the face with the candelabra, or the little candle holder thing, or the cross, whatever it was. And that was kind of reminiscent of that Guillermo del Toro movie that we talked about, that I can't remember off the top of my head, but when he bashes his face in with the bottle, that was very reminiscent of that.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth. Yes. Thank you, TJ. It was very reminiscent of that because it shows it in stages where it's like face bashed, nose bashed, face continued to bash in. And I feel like that stuff in movies like this kind of takes away from the whole story. Now, at the end, when she does kind of reach the breaking point and she does everything, they don't show spoilers. They don't show the baby. They show the blood on her face, which was from the priest and not anything related to her.
So that synopsis doesn't say anything about a baby. So everybody's probably going to be, if you I don't think you've said anything about it either. So let's put that in before we talk about a baby getting smashed.
Okay, so the name of the movie implies what the movie's about. Immaculate. This is Roman Catholic Immaculate Conception. She becomes pregnant with no sexual partners or sexual history, and the parishioners lead you to believe that this is an Immaculate Conception of the return of Christ, possibly. But it obviously, we've already said it, it's more sinister than that. There's more going on than what's on the surface. DNA splicing and science mixed with church, which is another topic you could get derailed on. But anyway, she smashes the baby at the end. They don't even show that. The brutality of her killing the guy is still undertoned, but then in other scenes, like I said, they show the grotesqueness of what's going on is almost as if it's like shock factors. Like they're trying to find a moment in the movie so that moment will at least be talked about to make people want to go, because that's what we're conditioned to now is people going, oh my God, there's a scene in there, you've got to see it. And so it's like they're trying to drive popularity through TikTok generation, 2-3 minute clip of the movie to bring people into the theater. So that to me feels like it's more for shock value, and it doesn't actually add to the film. It doesn't add to this one. Didn't need to see the girl's face off. I mean, if you go back to The Omen, when the nanny jumps off and she says, it's for you, it's all for you, and she jumps off, that the subtlety of that, not actually seeing it happen but seeing it happen, is more chilling than if it would have shown her hit the ground. So that's a takeaway. That's a knockoff for this movie. Also, the scene in the catacombs reminded me of something I heard earlier this week, and I was like, I'd never put it into perspective, but there was a scene. There was a guy who was solo camping out in the woods, and he hears something, and he's got his camera, and he's moving around, and all of a sudden, a woman's voice goes, "I see you," and he freaks out and takes off running. He's like, "I've got to get out of here." And I was reading the comments, and one of the comments said, "The scariest thing about having a flashlight," I'm paraphrasing, "is you can only see a little bit, but everyone can see you." And I was like, that's kind of terrifying. So I'm thinking she's running through these catacombs, and my thought is, how can he not tell where she's at? How can he not see which direction her panicking running with the flashlight? How was he not able to find her? And then obviously they missed a chance in the catacombs, and they went for the easy, drag her back in when she's almost escaped. I think it would have been better with the flashlight going on and off if she'd have turned it on and all of a sudden he was there. And they could have used that and her almost escape and then go into that. But I felt like that was a missed opportunity to add a little more jump scare. But overall, it's not terrible. Sydney Sweeney's not a bad actress. I don't get the hype. Honestly, I don't get why she's the it girl right now. I told John and earlier, I was like, there's more talented people out there that aren't getting the push that she gets, and I get why. We're a very shallow society. But she's not terrible. She's great in this, especially at the end when she's losing her mind and she's giving birth. I mean, she's very she pulls you into that scene with the intensity of which she's playing. So she does phenomenal for this movie. And I didn't hate it. Like, yeah, I've kind of got the smiling face assassin. I've kind of got this history of hating things on this show, and I didn't hate this. It wasn't terrible. I mean, like I said, if it had been 10 or 15 minutes longer, I probably would have zoned out at some point. There was just enough to keep you going through the movie. There was nothing special or groundbreaking that happened. It's exactly what it looks like on the surface. If you watch the preview, you've seen 90% of the awesome stuff that's going to happen in the movie. The rest you got to just kind of pay attention to figure out what's really going on, what the true sinister level in this movie really is. So yeah, that's my opinion.
But inquiring minds want to know, Kellen, you didn't hate it, but did you like it?
I did. It was an easy hour and a half watch. It wasn't one that I felt like I was pulling teeth to watch. There was enough. Like I said,
liked it more than Creepshow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh wow.
God damn.
Now that's blasphemous. More blasphemous than the ending of this movie, where they
blasphemous that Creepshow gets any kind of respect for being a good movie. Absolutely.
Oh Jesus. Forgive him, Lord. He does not know what he says.
Jesus had nothing to do with that film. He didn't have anything to do with this film either.
Apparently not. Apparently not. They saw to that by the end of this movie. So yeah, very similar to Kellen. Actually, I also did not hate it. I actually kind of liked it. However, also I agree with Kellen's point that the only way this movie works is because it's 88 minutes long with credits. Because there's no bigger story, and you, I mean, you don't have any characterization of Sydney Sweeney's character. You just know she wants to be a nun for some reason, and kind of mysteriously gets a invite to come to Italy to be at this place, even though she don't speak Italian. Like that should have been a tip off, maybe.
I think that was like a subtlety in it where they had her file, and it was like they were trying to find nuns that thought they might have had a bigger purpose,
Okay.
and this was what they thought was going to end up being their big purpose.
Yeah, that was the scene they had one little cutaway to where she like almost died under the ice, that she was like an idiot as a 10-year-old walking across, I guess, and fell in, as you do. But then they didn't come back to that as like a bigger thing. That was just a half-ass reason to to give her some greater sense of, well, I was spared for some reason. So obviously it must be giving birth to the biohazard mutant Jesus from the crazy priest that want to
That would be a great album
inseminate
name.
me.
Biohazard mutant.
Biohazard mutant Jesus.
Rob
Yeah.
Zombie, if you're listening, that's your next album title.
I think this movie would be seen by more people if that was the title. Biohazard mutant Jesus. I mean, that's really that's the whole film.
Lloyd Kaufman, get on it.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, it could be in the Tromaverse with Toxic Avenger. This is if you could get Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter mishmashed with the Toxic Avenger, there's a version of this movie in there somewhere that's probably even more entertaining. I guess my biggest qualm with the film is there's not a lot plot wise. They just get her into this convent essentially, and pretty much from the get that it's not going to go well for her. And then even her character in the first 20 or so minutes of the movie kind of knows it's probably something's up and something's not right, but then she doesn't really do much about it, even when she
Did
gets
anybody
these
else
little
say
glimpses.
damn white people when that one nun was like, leave, and she was like, I'm good? Like, first thought was like, stupid white people.
Right. White people never listen. We just can't hear reasoning and be like, oh, that don't apply to me. I'm a white person. Right. So
Before you continue, it just made me think of a post I saw on Facebook this week where someone shared a name of a haunted house book. It says the most accurate description they've ever seen for a haunted house book, and it was called Fuck This House.
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially the whole plot of this movie is they take the DNA from allegedly a nail that might have been used to hammer into the feet of Christ, and get that DNA and then use it to artificially inseminate a whole bunch of women, and none of them have taken. They've kept and kind of canned some of the, like, and pickled some of the babies that didn't work, kind of like a weird X-Files, background of a scene somewhere in a random episode. And to be fair, that is not actually Immaculate Conception. They're trying to kind of force God's hand, I guess, a little bit, and stretch the definition of Immaculate Conception. Would be there would be no human or otherwise interference other than being born of the Holy Spirit or whatever, which obviously under no definition could you say that what happens in this film or what they've been trying to do would be that, whatever that is. So it's not even very immaculate either. It's pretty messy. So it's like Messy artificial insemination is the more accurate title of this film, I think. But I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It just as it's starting to drag, which it starts to do at about every act change from like act 1 to act 2, it starts to drag, and then it cuts into gear where, they're strapping her down, and there's actively sinister stuff going on now. And then she's pregnant, and then you're like, okay, what's the deal with this? Okay. From the name of the movie, I can kind of, it can go one of a couple of ways here. And then the ending, it does get a little uncharacteristic of the film that they have set up. Like this is set up more like a classic, like a Omen or something like this. And then by the end of it, they're just smashing dudes' faces and killing babies. And that, which I get, it's a shock factor and hell of a way to end a movie by killing mutant baby Jesus. But I don't know. It didn't seem to fit the tone to me. I think it gets a little half a point or so off for me, probably but at the same time, it's like, I can't say that they didn't stick a landing, because how else would you end this film? It definitely has an exclamation point at the end of it. It's definitive ending. Probably not going to be a sequel to this movie. So, I mean, I think it's about as good as you could make this film without having a bigger backstory or more character development. So, what do you think, John?
Yeah, I fucking hated it. I fucking hate. I actually hated this movie more than any movie we reviewed so far. I thought it's
More than Terrifier 2.
Oh, Terrifier 2 is good.
Yeah, because Terrifier 2 is a fucking masterpiece.
Terrifier 2, let me tell you, Terrifier 2.
You finally come around to that.
Yeah, it's the runtime is the only thing about Terrifier 2 I have a problem with. Other than that, I think it's fine. This is worse than Talk to Me, worse than The Ritual, Men, Death Game. This is worse than all of them. This is like, I had this fucking movie playing on 2x speed and I was bored. I literally watched this 2 times fast and I was bored. It was that boring. Like 90 minutes, I cannot get back. They basically, this movie was, they cast Sydney Sweeney because she's the girl in Hollywood. I'm not going to say why, but we all know why. It doesn't take, I mean, come on. We all know why Sydney Sweeney's popular. Right, exactly. And I get it. She's a good actress. She's good in Euphoria. She's good in, I've seen her, she did good on SNL. She's not a bad actress at all, but like that was their whole logic was, let's get Sydney Sweeney in this. Let's make this horror movie. We can make a profit on it. I know
the reason we're doing this episode.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Aside from the profit part.
Yeah. We're cashing in on it. But my gosh, this is like watching an episode of C-SPAN. It was so boring. And, we get it. She's going to Italy. She's a fish out of water. She doesn't know the culture. She's going to give birth to the Antichrist. Like, it's so played out. That shit was done so many times. Rosemary's Baby did it better. The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore did it better. I mean, like, this shit has been done over and over again. Like, I was looking back on movies that were similar to this, and I mean, it's just been, The Omen kind of covered this in a lot of ways. Like, it's not really a new concept at all. And I feel like the Nun thing is just kind of done to death now. Just between the Nun movies and this, it's like, oh my God. Like, I just feel like right when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, again? I was like, do we need this shit again? Like, we know where this is going. We know exactly, we don't need this conversation anymore. Like, we know that people getting hurt against their will is bad. We know that rape is bad. We know that these things are bad. We don't need some stupid ass filmmaker in 2024 making a lecture to tell us that these things are bad. These things have always been bad. So Michael Mohan, look, I'm looking at the camera. Fuck you. You made a shitty movie. So yeah.
Grumpy John has entered the chat.
Oh yeah. So the only thing, I mean, the Mother Superior death was good. The girl jumping off the building, that was the stupidest shit. Her face looked like something off of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It was like her eyes were bugged out. You know what it was like? Her face looked like the landlady in that movie, Destroy All Neighbors, when she like shocks herself to death and she's a zombie. That's what she looked like. I was like, that's the best you people could do. And then they're trying to do this vibe like it's like Argento and Fulci and Roman Polanski. Oh, please. Oh, please. This is like the Dollar Tree version of that shit. So bad. And I'm not even a Fulci guy, but Fulci is so much better than this. Like 90 minutes of this movie. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, there's so many better things you could do in 90 minutes than watch this movie. You could do your taxes. You could cook a nice steak dinner. You could watch some videos on Bob Ross and draw some nice paintings. There's so many things in your life you could do than watch this absolute putrid piece of shit film ever. So it is a huge thumbs down for me. I'm not gonna rant anymore, but like I cannot state how much I hated this movie. I'm sorry for the language. I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but
It's the first time there's ever been swear words on this program, folks. We do apologize.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
you know, I kind of already knew how you felt, so I was looking forward to that part. Usually, if you had bet me today, I would have said Kellen would have hated it too. I think TJ and I are probably in the same place with it. First of all, Demon Babies is my least favorite horror subgenre. I hate it. It is 100% played out, but I just don't like it. It makes me uneasy, but not in the way like Hereditary or Midsommar makes you uneasy. It's like it's a different feeling, and I just don't care for it. Catholic horror, besides a few, is kind of the same way. I did wear my nun shirt, which was the better nun of the two. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about this movie, if I'm being honest. I thought the druid things that we saw occasionally, those were creepy. I enjoyed that. Sydney Sweeney is a great actress. Well, she's a good actress. I guess I don't know about great. I haven't really seen her in a ton of things.
She was good in the comedy that Anyone But You, is that what it was?
Yeah. And I tried to watch Madam Web and I couldn't finish it. She wasn't the problem. Sony. And the dubbing is the problem, which John pointed out to me. And my God, how does that get greenlit? How does that get pushed through? But that's a different
The dubbing on this
story.
film?
No, on Madam Web. Like the villain is
Oh.
dubbed and like obviously dubbed. It's even when you're not seeing his face, you can tell it's dubbed. Like it blew my mind. And in the wrong way, blew my mind. The best part of the movie is like the last 2015 where she does go nuts. Biting the umbilical cord, smashing the rock over the baby. Now, technically, if it was the blood of Jesus, how do we know it was the Antichrist? Like who did she kill? I guess that's the logical way to think about it, though, is the Antichrist. I don't know.
I think she killed Jesus. They brought back Jesus, she killed it.
We don't know. I don't think they knew. I think they were just trying to do something a little bit different where she kind of won and she in the audience is left saying, you go, girl. Or like that meme from Arrested Development, like, good for her. You get that feeling at the end, and I think that's what they were shooting for. The boldest decision of this entire film was having Sydney Sweeney be a nun, a fully clothed nun, because we've already touched on it. She's a very beautiful woman, and that's why she gets a lot of attention from lowlives, but she is a good actress. Do not get me wrong. But I just wonder how the guy sold this movie. He's like, guys, hear me out. Sydney Sweeney in a movie. They're like, okay, we're in. Like, but she's going to be a nun. Like, okay, like a sexy nun? No, not a sexy nun, just like a nun. Like, oh, and then they kind of start to, turn on him. He's like, wait, let's compromise. Let's make all the sets cold, and we will throw in one random shower scene that's completely unnecessary to the film because of the actress we have starring in it. And they were like, you son of a bitch, we're in. And this movie was made. And you agree with me about the shower scene. Like, if that was anyone else, would that have been a shower scene like that randomly?
No, and she's still covered up.
Yeah,
with her hand, like a prosthetic.
It was pointless.
Yeah,
just like why did you do that? Overall, I didn't fast forward it like John did. I didn't recommend it to anybody either. So that's where I am with that. So we'll go around, give our rankings, and close up shop. I think I would give it a 3, almost a 2.5, closer to the 2.5 than 3.5. I think I'm right there at 3, and even on Rotten Tomatoes, I think the audience scores like 60, and the critics is like 71. So they're the same way. And us, the audience, liked it less than the critics, which usually that doesn't happen, I don't think, with horror movies. I think it's the other way around. But I give it a solid 3. Kellen?
Yeah, same for me. I give it a 3. It's not groundbreaking. It's not great. It's not bad. I think John was eating piss covered Cheerios when he watched this because I don't think it's the worst movie we've watched.
That's not Frosty,
especially considering Beyond the Black Rainbow is in that catalog.
That's better than this movie. That's better.
You went off on Suitable Flesh. You didn't even go off on those other ones. He pulled a Suitable Flesh on this one.
He did. But yeah, I don't think it's a terrible film. I think it's going to be, and I've said this about other ones. I think it's going to be a forgotten movie, but I don't think it's a terrible film.
Yeah. All right, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3 for me. It's just a little bit above average, and that's mostly just because it is so short, and that last 20 minutes is like the last third of the movie is pretty decent. So.
All right, now the best part, John.
I don't know. I mean,
be honest.
If I was, well, it was not like the acting was not bad, and it wasn't like it looked like a film. So I got to give it a couple points for that. It's such a total piece of absolute putrid dog shit. But I mean, as a movie, objectively, I guess 2 out of 5. I'll be fair. I don't want to be just ridiculous, but I can't stress enough that like this movie's horrible. It's horrible.
So that puts us at a 2.75. We'll call it a 3. And I know what you're saying, and I feel that way too. And it's just because it's been done so many times already, and it has been done better. It's been done worse, but I don't know. I think the movies we've gotten lately, horror-wise, have been so good, and there's been some truly unique ones. And then we get this again. But I think the same thing about The Omen, but that's getting great reviews. Like Lana saw it, she gave it a 4, I think 4.5. Like she loved it. So they can still do it and do it well. I'm sad that Sydney Sweeney's not going to come on the show now because of John's comments, but I'll call her tomorrow and cancel.
She's good in Euphoria. I don't have a problem with Sydney Sweeney. I know she's just acting, but this director, like, ugh.
I'm going to clip it together to where it sounds like John says, Sydney Sweeney, I have a problem with her.
You know what? Do it. Go ahead and do it. I don't care.
Is this off the top of your head, John? Has this guy done anything else, the director?
He did some indie stuff, but it wasn't anything horror. Nothing that I knew. Yeah.
This is like first blockbuster one.
Yeah.
I guess blockbuster. All right. So that puts us at a 3 for Immaculate. Check it out. Don't check it out. But whichever one you do, thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, join our group on Facebook. And I don't know what we're doing next week. Night Swim, Hellraiser 3 with Vito, something else. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Come back and see.
We're doing Hellraiser 3?
Yeah, That's what Vito wants to do. So we're going to get, because, Vito's been on here, but he's never picked the movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to pick a movie. And I wish it was The Judgment. Is that the one that you hate? Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Is Judgment the one with the guy with the cuts all over his face? With
the one that I got you an autograph. Oh yeah,
that is a dog shit movie. That one, if anybody in this group watches that and gives it above a 2, I will.
He's going to
take a shit
you
in my front yard.
You go take a shit.
You're not in their front yard. We're not in whoever gave it a 3.
It's such a terrible movie. The acting's not good. The set design's terrible.
I would give your shit a higher rating than I gave that movie.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And I told Jay, I was like, "This is a terrible movie," and he was like, "It can't be that bad." And he watched it. He was like, "It's that bad."
And the greatest gift I've ever given anyone, and I wish you had it where you could grab it, but the guy who played that particular Pinhead was at a convention in Chattanooga that I went to, and I got him to sign a picture and personalize it for Kellen. Because this was his most hated movie of all time. So I'm like, I'm going to get this guy's autograph. I'm going to do that for one of you guys too, whenever I find somebody you hate. Did you find it?
No, I couldn't find it. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in my room. But oh god,
All right, find it for when we drop this episode. We'll post it. All right. Signing off, I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.